Usually Sundays. No, I get frazzled when, I get into a minute again. How do you stop getting frazzled? Oh, there's
remember last time I went over to Christmas and you said
it was my air conditioning. I did not want to leave it. I'll have it. If I do that, I have a hard time.
Oh, it's like fully yesterday. Could you push the button on the screen behind you? I'm already.
What were you doing, yard work?
Oh, is there something? So we're not doing.
I know. I need to. Are they?
Sorry,
Mine were, I didn't plant them until about last week. They're doing good.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. The microphone's on. Oh, they are. All right, welcome everybody to tonight's meeting for Monday, July 25, 2022, Sunnyside City Council regular meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody here. I'm going to ask the city clerk to go down the roll call for the record.
Mayor Gordon?
I am here.
Councilor Beeler?
Here.
Councilor Farmer?
Here.
Councilor Ripley?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Masucci?
Here.
Councilor Hicks?
Here.
Councilor Hart?
Here.
City Manager Alba? Here. City Part-Time City Admin here. Finance and Administrative Services Director Horner? Here. Fire Chief Anderson?
Here.
Police Chief Escalera?
I'm here.
Public Works Director Fisher? Excused. Community and Economic Development Director Martin?
Here. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now, do we have somebody here for the invocation this evening? Thank you, sir. All right, I'd like to ask you to stand for the invocation. Please remain standing afterwards for the pledge of allegiance.
Please bow your heads as I pray. Lord, first let me say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for many and abundant blessings. Pray for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular for this assembled council. I'm asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, sense of welfare and true needs of our people, keen thirst for justice and righteousness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in their lives and joy in their tasks. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Sunnyside. It is in your most beloved and blessed name that I pray this. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. There are, as mayor, a few jobs that I really enjoy, and those usually involve recognizing people in our community, either thanking them for service or welcoming them to service, which we get to do both of this evening. So the first item on our agenda is presentation of a Community and Economic Development Board. Several years ago, City Council decided that a Community and Economic Development Board was a good idea, but it kind of stayed idle for a while due to a pandemic and a number of other issues. In the last few months, we've been able to fill that board, and I'm kind of excited about that. This is a new board for the city of Sunnyside. They will investigate, offer insight, ideas to city council for us to act on to improve the economic development for our community. Our job as council members is not only to come up with a budget, but also to look for ways to make our community a better place. We serve on council because we like serving. So I know the pictures are up on the screen, but the members of the board who are present this evening, I'd like to ask you to come forward to be recognized. Don't all rush up at once. All right, and the manager's going to hand you city tips, so come on up. And so I'd like to recognize Lindsay Kirkman, Brittany Baima, Griselda Chacon, Leticia Sandoval, and Perla Cepeda. Thank you for volunteering to serve on this new committee. We look forward to great things from you guys. Several of you I know personally and have known for some time, so I am excited by the opportunities that you are going to have before you.
Ladies, please come up and introduce yourself.
Council would like to meet you.
Hi.
Go on down. Hello. You bet. There you go.
Hi there.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome and thank you.
Quickly, before you all go back to your seats, I just want to let you know that my name's Trevor Martin, and I've been the one who's been emailing you. So we're going to set a date here pretty soon.
And again, thank you for your willingness to serve, and we look forward to fantastic things from all of you.
Yes, ladies.
The next item on our agenda is an item of recognition. Sunnyside is blessed to be a city served by volunteers. Over the years, we've been served by volunteer police officers, but we've also been served by volunteer fire department personnel. Those personnel are those who are willing to take time from their busy schedule to train, to respond to emergencies. They're the ones that, when the call comes, they immediately drop everything they're doing and come and help their neighbors in a time of crisis. I know in my own personal family life, in 2 occasions where there's been a family crisis, it has been the same volunteer who showed up both times to help my family in a time of difficulty. And so we want to take time this evening to recognize our volunteers who have served and are unable to be with us, not because they want to be gone, but because they've been called away from us. And so I want to recognize 3 individuals, especially this evening. And Chief, you have a plaque. I don't know if you want to stand and show that to the audience. Do you have something prepared to say as well?
No, I was just going to explain it if...
You may do so, absolutely. I encourage you to.
Thank you. This is, I'm the fire chief, Mike Ken. This is going to be something new for us. As a firefighter, this is my 36th year, and it's an honor to all of us that are in the fire service. And if we're lucky to get a firefighter's funeral, it's actually. So Sunnyside Fire Department has been doing that. They have a long tradition of doing that, and its employees and anyone else really. And so, but this plaque, this came from Councilman or Deputy Mayor Stremler, and he had asked that we could update our plaques. We found out that the plaques that we had at the fire department were not in recognition of the members. Basically, he made this beautiful thing from scratch. That plaque is awesome, and so what we're going to do with it is we're going to go back as far as we can towards the 120 years and see if we can find all the names, actually honor all the people that were part of the organization. So tonight we only have 3 names because there's a lot of people on 120 years. There's records, there's only records go back to 1940. A little bit of a challenge getting the interim period, but we're hopeful we'll get it. We're going to put something on our website. We'll probably put something out on social media. Or maybe descendants or Anyway, so I will show you the plaque. I just kind of put this on here so we can put a couple nameplates on it, but it's a pretty big plaque and it's beautiful, wood, and we're very appreciative of it.
So I have 3 names to read tonight. These are names that are known to most of us. They have recently served. These are people that we know. And so I'm going to read these names, and this is in appreciation for the service that they have rendered to the city of Sunnyside. The first name I want to read is Chad Stremler. Second, Ron Hohalter and Mike Aguirre. These individuals have served as volunteers. Teach. Okay, I asked, and somebody told me Mike. Thank you for the correction. Pete Aguirre. These individuals served as volunteers in the Sunnyside Fire Department. And we, as a community, are proud of them, and we are very thankful for their service. So, yeah, I don't know what else to say after that. We are thankful for their service. We thank their families. We thank those who are able to be here this evening to honor them. We have a round of applause for those 3 individuals.
And then if they could come up, we'd like you to actually put the names on the plaque if you would like to come up.
Family members would like to come up.
Family members would like to come up, and I also have city pins for you.
So if you'd like to come up at this time. Yes, you are welcome to the intersection for this.
So, right here. Then, you want to do. So we have one more thing to give out to Deputy Mayor, retired Deputy Mayor Stremler for his service. So he has been a strong icon in the city here in Sunnyside for many years. He loves the fire department, loves the police department and public safety.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Ron.
Did we see turn it around so the council might see it.
See visual, that's the council can see.
Ron wants to take a picture there too. Yeah.
That's what it's gonna look like.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That is, yeah.
Did you say what type of wood it was? Mr. Summer, no?
Mr. Strummer, are you able to tell us what type of wood that is? Walnut and maple. Thank you. Beautifully done. Next item on our agenda is public comments. Citizens are advised that they must limit their remarks to the council to 3 minutes. Council may refer items to staff to review and/or research for a present council meeting. We don't always respond necessarily to your comments, but we are happy to hear them, and we do take notes. So, is there anybody here to offer public comment this evening? Yes, sir. Please approach the microphone, state your name and the city of residence, and please make your comment.
My name is Wayne Oberland. I live up on Columbia Street. And for 32 years, my wife and I have owned and operated a mobile home park known as Parkland behind the Jack in the Box. And when we bought it 32 years ago, 1/3 of the spaces were empty and 1/3 of the rents were unpaid. The reason was generally it had a bad reputation for crime. We did 2 things that turned it around quickly. We got in a deal 13 mobile homes that we owned. The rest of them tenants owned and rented. We rented them the land. We put a police officer at a cut rate rent in 6 of the mobile homes, 1 on every street. The residents, good guys, loved it. Bad guys, of course, hated it. Then we went to the Sunnyside Police Department and made them an offer that if, when an officer got off shift, he'd come down and walk through the park on foot, we would pay him $100. It would take about a half an hour. The residents loved it. They loved seeing that officer in uniform go by their home. They also loved knowing they had a police officer in their park, in their block. We were full and rents paid within a year with that program. And since that time, the city has also made major steps forward. Until recently, and I'd like to tell you this story, my phone rang a couple of months ago, and I told that a child's religious communion party, I think it's called, or celebration, had been interrupted when 2 people got shot. It happened 3 doors down from the office. I rushed down there. The people are not gang people.
20 seconds, sir. 20 seconds, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to suspend the rules for these people that have come speak to us tonight. If they have the time to come and talk to us, I have the time to listen.
No objection from council?
No objection.
You may continue, sir.
Anyway, thank you. I'll try and be as brief as I can. Anyway, rushed down there. It turns out that this is not a gang family. It's an all-American family. Mother, father, and 3 sons, all preteen. The lawn where the party was being held had 8 children on it and a number of adults. Surrounded by a high wood fence. building it from the street and the side. The only low fence was at the back. The shooter had obviously shot from the back. There was a bullet hole in the siding, and it came from that direction. The father of the child was hit in the arm, and the godfather of the child was hit in the stomach. And I apologize profusely. These good citizens, I just felt terrible because they were paying me their hard-earned dollars for a safe place to live. And I would say this, they were also paying the police chief and the city manager their hard-earned dollars for a safe neighborhood and a safe city. And the three of us failed that family miserably. And I would like to say this, that this has to stop. There can be no excuses. I've spent a long time in professional sports, and excuses are for losers. We cannot have excuses. We had the third or fourth safest city only a few years ago in the state, and now we have the Cinco de Mayo parade shot up. We have a child's communion party shot up. It has to stop. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, sir. Others who would like to offer public comment?
So, my name is Jason Raines. I'm a resident of Sunnyside. I am the resident park manager of Overland's Park. However, I'm not speaking in my capacity as park manager. I'm speaking in my capacity as 10 years ago, I was a member of the city council, and I was sitting up there where you guys are now. Following a horrendous period of frequent and violent crimes, many of them shootings, a concerted effort was made to turn things around. Efforts by the Sunnyside Police Department, the Sunnyside School District, and many others were successful in turning things around and reducing crime during that time. In recent years, things have taken a turn for the worse, I'm afraid. Just a couple of examples. In April 2021, a car was traveling at a very high rate of speed, stopped through a fence, parking lot, landscaping, concrete block wall, ended up inside the classroom of one of our schools. Fortunately, there was no class in session at the time. No children were hurt. The drunk driver was found inside the vehicle. A few short months later, in August 2021, a man left a local bar in no condition to drive. He did not have a license. He did not have insurance. He had a history of being stopped by the police for driving recklessly, and he was drunk. Somehow, this drunk driver made it all the way through town without being stopped by any police officer. He entered the neighborhood in which I live, decided to drive at an extremely high rate of speed. Sunnyside police estimated approximately 60 miles per hour when he entered the front bedroom of one of our residences and killed one of my neighbor's sons. In April of this year, the apartments to the south of me, the site of a shooting. It was following graffiti that had been increasing for months. Two apartments were hit, upstairs and downstairs units. Both apartments occupied at the time. Tenants were aware the building was being shot at. Despite all this, they did not call the police. Perhaps they didn't think anything positive would come from calling. The very next week, family down the road from me, during their gathering for that communion, it was interrupted by gunfire. Police have yet to crack that case. Apparently, they don't have any leads. Fortunately, the injuries were relatively minor. The very next week after that, Sunnyside Cinco de Mayo festivities were shut down after a mass shooting occurred there, in spite of our police presence. In June, police decided to charge somebody with committing that mass shooting, but that individual is no longer in jail, and a Superior Court judge has severely criticized our police department for not following proper procedures. I would like to echo the sentiments of the prior speaker and ask mayor, city council, city manager, police chief, everybody that's here today, to ask themselves what we can do to help the people here to trust in the police department so that they will call when things are up and get into these times.
Sure. Anyone else? Jim Stevens, 328 Grandview Avenue. I have a business at 922 East Edison. We've had for many years, and currently my wife and I run that business. And she told me she was going out to take a garbage out, and she didn't come back, and didn't come back. Finally, she came. She had a dog that attacked her and caused her to fall. So we got in the car and looked for the dog. We didn't find it. And she was, every time we hit a bump, she was complaining. So we went to the hospital down in Cadillac. They took an x-ray. She had 3 broken ribs. She was in the hospital for 3 days. I called the city, I don't know how many times, about nuisance dogs and stray dogs. And nothing's done. I do get a lot of excuses. The control officer, the dog abatement is, they're not here, they work for unit and back them off. They only here every other day. That's not when it's happening. It's happening right now. It's going to be done. And so now my wife's in the hospital, and Jim is severely upset. I'm not over it yet. So who's gonna take care of this dog? I tell you what's gonna happen is people are gonna go out and start shooting these dogs. That's what happens. That's the reason that we have our unified governmental bodies, so that doesn't happen. So we look and let's protect and serve. That's all of our responsibility here. And I understand you don't get everything that goes on in the community, but that's what I need to tell you. And so my feeling is a stray dog is a dead dog. That's not the way it should be. That is not the way it should be at all. So I just had today, a gal was walking down the street, and this dog, same dog I've seen out paraded around for, I don't know how many, it's a big dog, German short hair. And he's out there in the, following this gal down the street. And I've called in several times about this dog. The dog's still out there. This is 3 months. So what happens when some little kid's out there, that dog kind of teams up with some other dogs, and the 2 or 3 dogs get together, and they're very different than one dog by itself. So that's one issue. I had another issue with a plane where some guy was parked in front of our office every day for 8 hours a day. It was harassment as far as I'm concerned. Nothing was done about it. I complained about it. I was parked over there on that side of the street in the shade, and I got into his truck, and it accosted me. And I said, just cool, dude. And he got in his truck, and he backed up into my pickup and ran it all the way into the old Banner Bank area, severely damaging my pickup. Police came, and they cited him, but he didn't have insurance. They didn't cite him for non-insurance. I said, why didn't you cite him for not having insurance? He said, well, we cited him for other things. So I had enough for the day. That's unimaginable. I see this guy driving around. I'm sure he still doesn't have. So these are things that, again, we can all work together, and we need to, in order to resolve these problems. But we have, our attitude as, I can, how can I? Not, we cannot have excuses, not how can't I. It has to be out, I can. And I made a statement echoing Wayne independently, is that that's how Super Bowl champions are made. They're not by an I can't attitude. I know that we all can. I know you guys have a tough job here. I've been there on your position before. But we can all work together. We have a very, very serious problem. And I know that I'm willing to help, and I know I've talked to a lot of people around town, and they're willing to help too. Thank you, sir. Others wishing to make public comment?
My name's David Swales. I live in Grandview, but I own a business, Valley Auto Parts, 201 North State Street. Been there for 22 years. I've never seen crime. I feel like I'm at ground zero for the crime in Sunnyside. Around me. These are just a list of things I've been dealing with for a couple of years. Delivery vehicles get broken into, drill holes in the fuel tanks, in the catalytic converters, windows have been shot out of my storefront. Every day, I see drug dealing, we see prostitution, thieving, fighting at the motels around my store, mainly the one right behind my store. Someone got shot a couple months ago at the townhouse behind my store. I had drops of blood down. I go to my home. My family left Cinco de Mayo 15 minutes before the shooting started. And the kid that got shot in the face was my coworker, ex-coworker's son. A few months back, I had a guy masturbating on the sidewalk. And got homeless people parking in my parking lot. They refused to leave. Clean the garbage out of their cars and leave it in my parking lot. I'm constantly enforcement. I've got the speed out. I constantly send them pictures of graffiti. It's getting really bad with the graffiti. I've had my customers' vehicles broke into while they're shopping at my store. Many customers have stated they don't feel safe coming to my store. And at this point, myself and several of my employees conceal carry at work. But we don't feel safe. At this point, I'm losing thousands of dollars, not only in vandalism, but in business, because people are afraid to come to my store. And something's got to change.
Thank you, sir.
Councilor Sunnyside? I'll wait till you guys get that before I. Sure to keep. I'm here to encourage, not criticize, although some things I say may come off with some criticism. What I'd like to start is the picture I put on the front. Maybe you may be familiar with this guy, maybe you aren't. His name's Jim Abbott. He was born without a right hand. The reason I sent a picture of him is because he was told, I can't, you won't, his whole life. But he made it to the major leagues, never spent one day in the minors. He won an Olympic gold medal. He had 87 wins in the major leagues. He had 888 strikeouts, and he pitched a no-hitter. Everybody told him he couldn't. And what I hear so often, hear others people talk about, public meetings that are held, their explanations of why we can't do things. I hear, I always confuse that word. I don't know any successful businessman who made it by saying I can't. Always can find a way to do it. There's a comment that crime comes in waves. Crime comes in floods. Floods happen when we drop the dam. We dropped the dam in this community. And crime is flooding us out now. We did that through overt acts. We did that through omission. I have to point out what happened. That's no, we go to council. What I'd like to encourage you to do, start taking action today. Don't wait for the city manager to lead you into something. Great, she's got some great ideas, but they're 6, 8 months, a year down the road. Don't wait for the body cams. Don't wait for the shot
squatters. Don't wait for the ALPRs. What can you do today? What I've given you in front is something Spokane Police Department, Spokane Sheriff's Department is doing right now. This is a nuisance, Spokane Valley nuisance. It's on the books, they're enforcing it. And what you're going to be surprised about is they're enforcing, telling landlords when they have gang members, telling landlords when they have drug dealing, they're telling landlords when they have weapons violations. You know why they're telling them that? Because if you go to the next web pages, the RCW says, and I'm going to quote page 2 of the web, any law enforcement agency shall notify the landlord in writing at the last address listed. And this is for weapons and drugs, and it's the same thing for gangs. These are the RCW. This is the law. I want to know how many of these have been issued by our police department, the landlords. So I know there's been arrests of drugs, weapons, and homes, rentals. We're so afraid of the Attorney General, we're sitting here with a paralysis of analysis, waiting for somebody else to solve our problem. That's not going to help us. Somebody else is not going to solve our problem. I encourage you to do, starting tonight, every agenda has an item on it. Sunnyside City Safety. What are we doing at this meeting to make this place safer? I'm telling you, until shooting stops, nothing else.
Anyone else wish to speak?
My name's Mike Kennard. I live at 212 East Edison, and I have a number of issues that haunt me daily for where I live. I'm right at the foot of Stackhouse. And it's a speed zone going by my house at 50, 70 miles an hour. I'm amazed that someone hasn't been killed right there. Coming down the hill, going up the hill, running the stop sign from West Edison, coming towards town. It's unbelievable the amount of bad traffic. I have talked to the police, I've talked to Chief Escalera. They get 10 minutes, half hour, 45 minutes, and then there's nothing. And a day or two later, it's right back on to the speed track there. I'm looking for a council's attitude of doing the right thing, even when it's not a crisis yet. I think that there's a strategy that needs to be employed that deals intelligently with what's on the books. I'll give you an example of a real low-key, non-threatening, easy thing. But it has loads of influence if it's ignored. There's a statute that says the tint on windows cannot be darker than a certain amount. It's real easy to determine whether or not a vehicle that goes by that you cannot tell from the street, from the sidewalk, from the parking lot, how many people are in that car. Now, whose business is that? Well, I think it's any business, the business of anyone who's in law enforcement and might encounter a car that's on fire, or a fireman that encounters it and risks his life to check the back seat when there's no one in it. I think there's going to be inevitably a crisis that happens because we disregard the simplest of city codes, that you can only have windows so dark. There's a reason for that. It's not because somebody just says so. It's not because somebody wants to be a gangsta and slump backwards in their seat and play the role. But it's one thing to run with loud pipes or a cutout or an altered exhaust, which is illegal. But to tin up the windows where you can't even see the number of people that are in the car is asking for it. Now, if we're going to disregard the simplest of things, what chance do we have for anything else? I'm not trying to make a mountain out of a molehill here. It's going to happen. Inevitably, it will happen, where somebody is endangered because they didn't follow the code. If you're not going to, as a council, enforce that code, then get it off the books. It's real simple. But don't suffer for all the population here the travesty of saying, well, we've got an ordinance that keeps you safe and protects you and regulates that. No, you don't. No, you don't, if you don't follow it. And finally, this. When I see a police car that has tint on their windows that's greater than the law allows, I'm thinking, what chance do we have? Something to think about, isn't it? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else would like to speak?
My name's Dave Stokes, at Bird Ranch, 706 Yakima Highway, live in Grand, here, like, 52. Going along with what Dave Swales had to say, you know, I consider where we're at the wonderful triangle of death, between the motels. It is absolutely amazing, you know, the stuff we see. I generally have to call the police station once every 2 years. It's up to, you know, every couple of months. Easily, and that's just stuff that we, half the time we don't even carry anymore. You know, I make sure that I carry an extra employee at nighttime. My staff just doesn't feel safe. You know, when you have 16-year-olds working, you know, it's very frustrating trying to get help in. And the help you do get, they don't want to work because they're scared to be there. Jenner's coffee stand. You know, they've had numerous times where people go in, try and get in there with a couple young girls working. You know, extremely frustrating as well. You know, I know the officers are doing what they can. Hands are tied greatly with this wonderful state of Washington. But it is interesting, just the stuff you see. You know, everything he said, I can attest exactly the same stuff. Excuse me. You can watch across the street Ace Hardware. Ace is bombarded with theft. You know, people go in, take stuff left and right. And a lot of it stems from motels, you know, perfectly honest, that's where it comes from. The big question I have, if we know so much crime is happening in them, you know, they're, 100 feet, they share the property, the Christian school, you know, doesn't that enhance charges quite a bit? A couple weeks ago, I'm sure the chief escalator as well, where this, you know, taking out my garbage out the back door. I watch sheriffs, 5 Sunnyside officers, state patrol, and they're interviewing with riot shields. You know, it's real good to customers when you have riot shields going in for, I think it was a burger stuff. You know, where they come? Sunnyside motels. So, you know, we really should be cracking down. You know, we watch the hookers, prostitution, all the time. So, anyways, I think you're well aware of it. I don't know, what's going to be done about it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Hearing none, I do want to thank everybody for their comments. Much of this can be referred to the Public Safety Committee, which it will be, and we will convene a meeting. We've had a couple of meetings already this year. I know the police department has been working on solutions in certain areas. After a conversation I had with the chief last week, he has shown some success, and he was telling me some stats. Perhaps later on this evening, when it's his turn to report, he will share some of that with us. But We are in some areas making progress. Unfortunately, it's not the areas that are visible to all of you. You certainly share an awful lot. Some of this has been going on for some time. It's definitely a public safety issue, and it is something that we want to address. So we will convene a meeting shortly. No one else that wishes to speak, we're going to go on to item number 2, our consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of the following items. Letter A, payroll vouchers. Approved payroll voucher numbers 119120 through 119135, and wire transfers as listed for $479,775.07 for the period ending July 11, 2022. Claim vouchers. Approved claim voucher numbers 104018 through 104064, and wire transfers as listed for $123,912.34 for the period ending on July 13, 2022. And approved claim voucher numbers 104065 through 104133, and wire transfers as listed for $348,813.11 for the period ending on July 20, 2022. Does any council member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? None. What is the desire of council on this item?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Hicks.
Mr. Hicks, thank you. And who had a second? Mr. Lee, thank you. So we've got a motion by Councilor Hicks, second by Councilor Ripley to approve the consent agenda as presented. Debate on this item. All right, no debate. Then, Madam Clerk, would you please go down the roll for the vote?
Councilor Ripley,
Yes.
Mayor Brosen,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tucci,
Yes.
Councilor Bueller,
Yes.
Councilor Hicks,
Yes.
Councilor Farmer,
Yes.
Councilor Hart,
Yes.
Mayor, there's 7 yes votes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Active agenda. Item A, budget amendment number 2. Consider adopting an ordinance amending the 2022 budget. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Bursma. I will turn this over to Ms. Warner.
Thank you, Madam City Manager and Council and Mayor. This is our normal budget amendment that we do halfway through the year to adjust our revenue and expenditure forecast. As you'll see in the cover sheet, there are 5 general reasons in this budget amendment that we have made changes. They are technical corrections and adjustments, updated revenue and expenditure forecasts, adjustments to revenues and expenditures as a result of grants, adjustments to expenditures for full-time employee wages and benefits, and enhancement requests approved by council. And this one is significant because we did pass some ARPA funding allocations to different areas, and a lot of it hasn't been fully encumbered, but it has been approved to be spent on certain categories. So we did go ahead and move some of that money around in this budget amendment. So the main changes in the general fund are actually due to that. And the rest of it is listed here. I'm willing to answer any questions if you guys have questions. I did also want to take a moment just to let you know, as a whole, citywide, our expenditures and revenues as of the end of June, so halfway through the year, we're right on track with where they have been in a healthy spot at 44% of our budget. So we're doing really great so far this year, staying within what we have budgeted.
Thank you. Council members, any questions for Ms. Warner?
Just make a comment. I was really surprised at how the janitorial service affects so many columns.
Yeah, because that cost is allocated across all the different funds citywide.
Other questions or comments?
So, I think we requested at some point, and maybe it's a different topic, but it just crosses my mind now, that we would get quarterly reports, actual figures of where the budgets are in different columns. I see it through the voucher system, you know, janitor. But I'm just thinking we'd ask for this at some point, to have quarterly reports on our budget where we could actually look at it and see where we are. I understand, I'm wonderful that we're at 44% or on target there. That's brilliant, but I do feel like seeing the visual is really important.
Yes, and Ms. Hart, we had talked about that, and that's something that I think we all agree that we enjoy seeing. One of the things that we, at least for myself, when I came on the council in 2013, one of my goals was to see the city finances in excellent condition, and we are seeing that, and I'm very grateful for that. But we want that to continue, and so we'd like to take a look at it too. We know that you probably know more about city accounting or government accounting than we do, but at the same time, it's really nice to see those numbers, and I'm an analog person. I like to see it in paper. I like to draw on it or take notes and all that sort of stuff, which I don't do on my computer all that well. So, yeah, I agree with Ms. Hart on this one. I do like to see that a quarterly update for us to see how things are going. That's nice for all of us, so.
I am smiling like a fool here because I would love to provide that to you, and it has been my intention since I started, I promise. But unfortunately, it has been so overwhelmingly busy with some of the things going on. Specifically, since I started working here, I've spent approximately 70% of my time dealing with HR issues, and I'm not making excuses, but I want to give you guys that too. And any of you that were here through my presentations with the personnel costs and all that stuff, I hope that you understand I really do love to provide that to you, and I will do a much better job on the next quarter.
Thank you. Other comments or questions from council? For myself, I just want to echo Mr. Beeler, the janitorial cost. It's always kind of surprising how many different columns it is and the increase in that. However, I do want to ask, are we satisfied with our new janitorial services?
From the perspective of City Hall, I can comment that they are doing an excellent job.
And I have to confess that I knew the answer to that question before I asked it, because I know that there was a citywide level of disappointment with the previous janitorial service. It was disappointing to say the least, and I heard nothing but positive things. So it is a greater expense, but it seems to be well worth it. Working in a clean environment is extremely good for a person's attitude. You just feel better about where you are, so.
It also projects a much better image for the citizens, and it's important for us that they know that we are working very hard to support them with their money.
And from, everything we just heard, there's got to be some areas in which we can excel.
Well, we have to take our attaboys where we can get them.
Right.
And Mayor, if I may comment,
Mr. Mayor?
for the first since I've worked in Sunnyside, I can see out the window, it's very clear. They came and washed our windows.
I saw them there, yes.
And it was fabulous. I mean, literally, you didn't realize how dirty they were until you could actually see. So I want to give them kudos for that.
Yes. Mr. Ritucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to remind council, we're hearing a lot of questions about finances, and I appreciate the fact that Admin Services Finance Director, Ms. Horner, is willing to teach. If council wants to plug in the Association of Washington Cities, they have Washington Finance Officer Association programs and training that will allow you to actually take the budget and break it down and see exactly how it's built. I've attended one of those trainings and they were really good. So if you have questions about the city's budget, I recommend you contact the Association of Washington Cities.
Thank you, sir.
If I may just add one other comment to that, the Washington State Auditor's Office has also updated what they call their financial intelligence tool, and there are some really great charts and graphs that you can find on there. Usually it's looking back, so every year we file an annual report so far, so you can go back and compare years through the various funds and compare them to other similar cities, so that's another great resource. I'm going to bring you the stuff about our city.
And that's the one we're interested in.
All right, so, Madam City Manager, I don't have a motion on here. Do you need a motion on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Amending the 2022 budget.
Very good. So, hearing all of this, what is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve the ordinance in the 2022 budget.
I'll second that.
Sorry, Mr. Deputy Mayor, you were just a little too slow on that one.
That's all right.
So we have a motion. Councilor Beeler and a second by Councilor Hart to amend and adopt the amendment number 2 to the 2022 budget. Is there any debate on this item? Hearing none, Madam City Clerk, please go down the list.
Mayor Versa,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Masucci,
Aye. Oh, yes.
Councilor Wheeler, Councilor Ripley,
Yes.
Councilor Farmer,
Yes.
Councilor Hicks,
Yes.
Councilor Hart,
Yes.
Mayor, there's 7 yes votes.
Thank you, motion carries. Item B, Lower Valley Pathway Maintenance Agreement. Consider authorizing the city manager to execute a maintenance agreement with the Lower Valley Trails and Recreational Pathway Foundation to perform all maintenance on the pathway for the next 10 years. Madam City Manager.
So this is actually an agreement that we've had in place since the walkway or the trail was made. And this just basically irons out who's gonna do the maintenance. And, basically, at one point it was with Yakima County, and now we just want to make sure it's clear that it's with the city of Sunnyside. It is city property all the way out to just before the golf course.
Council, any questions or comments for the city manager?
I've got a couple. Where's the funding coming from on this?
There's no funding involved. We're having our staff do some of the maintenance. And,
It's still,
okay, this is giving them the ability to perform maintenance on our property. So Lower Valley Trails is doing maintenance. So they'll come in and do, we help, but they come in and do a lot of the heavy lifting.
we're only responsible to the golf course or to the park.
Correct. And at some point, if they're awarded ARPA money, from Yakima County, they have asked for that. We'll do much like we did with the park. We'll remand it to them, and then they'll remand it back to us when they're done with the project, so that they don't have, they'll still have to follow some government rules for public property, but they can do a much better job of bidding than we can. And usually we do things less expensive.
Other questions or comments?
Well, does this contract address the tractors and stuff sitting out there? Because I know people are starting to mess with those.
This isn't really, well,
It's on the trail.
those are on city property, and so it doesn't really address those at all. Those are something that was put in place by Don Day, and I don't think anyone really knew what it was gonna look like until they started being put there. And there is a plan for it.
What you're saying, though, is that it's a separate issue.
Correct. Separate organization even.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? So I've been getting calls from individuals who are upset about the state of the pathway. The gaps, there'll be 2-inch gaps in different sections of the pathway. Kids will occasionally go down the pathway and their skateboard wheels will get caught in the gaps. Somebody has seen people pushing strollers and they had struggled with some of the gaps as well. Is that part of that maintenance?
No, so that is a separate, item, and basically they've asked for $1.2 million from Yakima County out of their ARPA money for that,
Okay.
and that's what we're trying to get. And they want to repay the whole thing all the way from, I believe, the other side of Grandview, all the way to the police department.
Okay, so that's the responsibility of the, Lower Valley Pathway group.
Correct.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Hearing none, what is the desire of council?
Move to approve. I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilor Ripley and a second by Councilor Hart to authorize the city manager to execute a maintenance agreement with the Lower Valley Trails and Recreational Pathway Foundation to perform all maintenance on the pathway for the next 10 years. Any debate on this item? Hearing none, Madam City Clerk, will you go down the list of the votes?
Councilor Hart? Yes. Councilor Farmer?
Yes.
Councilor Hicks?
Yes.
Councilor Wheeler?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Masucci?
Yes.
Mayor Versa?
Yes.
Councilor Ripley?
Yes.
Mayor, there's 7 yes votes.
Motion carries, thank you. Item C, Franklin Court Water Main Improvements. Consider authorizing the city manager to execute task order 2021-05, amendment number 1 with HLA Engineering to provide bidding services and engineering services during construction in the amount of $58,500. Madam City Manager.
I will be turning this over to Stephanie Ray of HLA.
Mayor, members of council, city manager, thank you for having me. Absence of Mr. Fisher, I'm here to answer any background questions that you have on this. The project, for us that was started last year, you may remember, Franklin Court is across from the school along 16th. It's a horseshoe type development. There's currently 13 lots in there. They're all served off of it. So, fire flow is certainly not met, as well as current, demands. So this project replaces that water main and replaces service. Project is designed, so what we are here today to talk about a amendment to our task order from last year to provide bidding services and construction engineering. The reason why we are here right now is, we were trying to find alternate funding sources, consider, more grant funding. Fortunately, all of those, funding programs at the moment, don't align with the need to get this project done. Those funding programs have been PCG, DWSRF, and even, the city's ARPA funding. So we're looking to move forward, funding this project with, water funding, fund balance, and REAP money.
Council members, any questions? And what is the available amount that Waterfront has for this project?
We'll be looking for a budget amendment for our task order. When we get to the bidding process for the project, we'd be back asking for council's consideration.
Do they have money saved for that's available for this?
I have to defer that to Shane and finance director.
Do you have any ideas there?
They do have adequate fund balance to fund this. In fact, per the projected budget for 2022, the fund balance in the water department is projected to increase, I think by about $65,000. So, this would just be some of the excess money that would be rolling into fund balance anyway.
Anybody else questions?
One of the things I noticed here is that we're talking in the amount somewhere, is it just for the bidding services, that $58,500?
This is for bidding services and construction engineering during the project. Anticipated total construction amount for the project is anticipated about $400,000. 800 feet of 8-inch water main. We will be back, for council's authorization. As I'm sure you're aware, pipe prices, material availability is fairly volatile at the moment. So, what we would like to do is go through bidding to understand what, dollar amount we'll be looking at for this project. Come back for council.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Going from a 2-inch to an 8-inch, does that make sense?
Yeah, 8 inches is the minimum that we'd want to see to serve fire hydrants. There's currently no fire hydrants in this loop whatsoever. It also serves a church property, very significant church property. We'd be adding 2 fire hydrants. Again, the minimum line size for 2 hydrants would be an 8-inch. A 12-inch would be a little overkill for 13 residences. The other appropriate pipe size would be a 10-inch. However, we've been told a 10-inch line, which would be bigger than what we would need. Pipe availability on that is January. So, 8-inch would be the most appropriate, knowing that no further expansion would happen in this.
And going to, you said 800 feet?
Approximately 800 feet.
And what size line does it reach when it's on the city to fill that?
It connects into, I believe, a 10-inch cast iron line that's in 16. We are connecting to a much larger line.
2-inch line is kind of minimal, it's on a couple sprinklers.
You can't all water your lawns at the same time.
No, you're not really good enough.
Just on that note, there was also, I think that Shane had talked about at one point or another, and I don't think it's part of this particular project, but about those, the sewer, what is it, stormwater basins. The stormwater basin there is kind of a joke, because that street, is low, it kind of comes in low, and it becomes like Lake Franklin, and we have a lovely rainstorm. So I think that, I don't know if that's something that's further down on our, list of things to do. I wish it was really good, because then we could skate on that Lake Franklin, but,
Well, the disadvantage there too is you also have a fairly large parking lot there.
so that's not good either.
And, Madam Hart, we will be able to account for some of the drainage. There's currently 2 catch basins in that entire horseshoe. The water main will be about 10 feet off, for the Department of Health regulations, but we'll have to come back in and patch that in with asphalt. So there's opportunity to adjust that structure to a more appropriate grade and make sure.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Hearing none, what is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilor Beeler, second by Councilor Hicks, to authorize the city manager to execute task order 2021-05, amendment number 1 with HLA Engineering to provide bidding services and engineering services during construction in the amount of $58,500. Any debate on this item?
I know we have a lot more to do in the city as far as getting the water supply needed and the piping needed, but we have to start someplace. We have to keep up with the growth.
All right, Madam City Clerk, will you go down the roll for the vote?
Deputy Mayor Tucci,
Yes.
Councilor Stewart,
Yes.
Councilor Ripley,
Yes.
Mayor Barsney,
Yes.
Councilor Hart,
Yes.
Councilor Hicks,
Yes.
Councilor Farmer,
Yes.
Mayor, there's 7 yes votes.
Thank you, motion carries. The next item, item D, is an executive session. We're asking for 10 minutes under RCW 42.30.110. And 1(b), to consider the selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate by lease or purchase when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of increased price. Action is expected. That means that we have to ask you to step outside, please. You'll be invited back in when the executive session is over.
Oh, the guys that. Oh. There we go.
Yeah.
I really don't, I don't have an indoor voice, yeah.
All right, we are back in session. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Item E, as a direct result of our executive session, is the action that we have talked about. Buyer agency agreement. Consider authorizing the city manager to enter into a buyer's agency agreement with Randy Tucker to broker the purchase of property for the use of the city of Sunnyside. Council members, do we have any questions on this item? No questions. What is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilor Hart, second by Councilor Beeler, to authorize the city manager to enter into a buyer's agency agreement with Randy Tucker to broker the purchase of property for the use of the city of Sunnyside. Debate on this item? Hearing none, Madam City Clerk, will you go down the roll for the vote?
Councilor Farmer,
Yes.
Councilor Hicks,
Yes.
Councilor Beeler,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tucci,
Yes.
Mayor Barsney,
Yes.
Councilor Ripley,
Yes.
Councilor Hart,
Yes.
Mayor, there's 7 yes votes.
Thank you, motion carries. Items from council members, mayor's appointments for boards and commissions. Well, we got to enjoy the full view of the people appointed for boards and commissions. We have, correct me if I don't remember this right, we have 2 positions open for boards and commissions in the city right now, and they are Parks and Rec and Salary Commission. So, if you know of anybody who's looking for a role in the city, please send them to the city website. I know those positions are advertised on our Facebook page as well as on the website, so the information is out there. And I personally am just absolutely delighted by the response in this last year of people who want to participate. It's exciting to see members of the community want to get involved. And of course, I always look forward to people who get involved in these boards and commissions to someday come and sit in one of our seats here and take on a role on city council as well. Because if we can do it, you guys can do it. All right, I don't have any pending appointments at this point. I have a couple people to talk to. And we will be moving forward on some other. Item B, council request status report. That's the manager.
Thank you, Mayor Bergman. We have on this, council status request report, not really any movement right now. I have assigned the Roger Brooks presentation materials to, Mr. Martin, and he is going through there with a fine-tooth comb and a fresh set of eyes, and started looking for things that we can do to start making those things a reality. Water tower, I still haven't heard back from Chase lately. He is doing murals, his last summer mural. He's looking for donations right now, so I know he's kind of in a busy mode, but I will reach out to him again and talk to him. We have done larger speed limit signs on YBH. Those are complete. And then as soon as the weather cools down, they will do more of the 35 mile per hour things. We are working on the noise ordinance by looking at other cities. And then we are working on fireworks as well, modeling after most likely the city of Villa. So we'll be calling meetings for that coming up here and starting probably in September.
Okay, council members, is there any items that you'd like to add to the council request report?
I'm gonna add one, but I want to do it under, when I talk about the other stuff.
Other reports, okay.
Other reports.
Sorry, you were about to say something?
No.
Okay. Other items that council members would like to add, please see or communicate with myself or the city manager. If anything comes up you'd like to add to that. I just want to make a comment on the noise ordinance. It is getting, you know, as the nights are long and warm and people get excited, we do start to hear more and more cars accelerating with a great deal of enthusiasm out of the city late into the night. I live on the north side of the hill, and that's where I hear Yakima Valley Highway as I head towards Granger Outlook, and it does get really loud. So we need to really do put that noise ordinance. We've had a couple instances with some loud music, and I have fielded some complaints from that as well. Although thankfully, for the most part, they stop sometime between 10 o'clock and midnight. Preferably, we want them to stop at 10, but still, we do need to investigate that. So that's something that.
Mr. Mayor, can I just add to the North Yakima Valley Highway, North Avenue, and 16th Street? Those are runways as well.
We have a number of them in the city, and, yeah, unfortunately, we don't have enough police officers to put on all of those, and I'm almost to the point of revisiting the idea. I know we put, the kibosh was put on it a couple of years ago, revisiting the idea of, speed control. When I was in the Dominican Republic, we called them sleeping policemen, speed bumps. They were effective, especially in a very well lowered car. That car off pretty well. I know how to do it in an illegal fashion. I really want our citizens to do that.
30th Avenue in Yakima has the 25, 35 mile an hour speed bumps. They're long, gentle. If you're too fast, you're airborne.
Yeah, they're all over scenic as well.
Good gravy. Okay.
All right, moving on. Other reports, announcements, and or questions by council. Mr. Farmer, I know you've got something, so I'm going to let you go first.
I was very happy tonight
to see the Community and Economic Development Commission, staff. It's been a long time coming, something that is sorely needed within the city. But I do have a comment. This commission has 5 citizen members and 1 council member. I would like to see that bumped to maybe 6 citizens or 7 citizens. I think there's a wealth of people out here with good ideas, and I think the more people we get involved in it, I think the more effective this commission will be. Not saying anything bad about the people we chose, because they are great people with pillars of the community, and I'm happy that you've been chosen to be on it. But I think we need to add at least 1, maybe 2 more people. And I don't know if I should make a motion to do that, or whether we want to bring it back in form of a ordinance or ordinance change. I don't know how the best way to do it.
We would need to do that, yes. So I'll put it on our next agenda.
Okay.
But just by way of, I just want to counterbalance that, you're talking about having an uneven, you want to have an uneven number for voting. So to have, because this commission is going to be bringing recommendations back to the council. Is that not correct?
Mhm.
That's what commissioners are supposed to do. So by having, the 5 that we've already appointed, the mayor has already appointed, the 1 person who is serving from the council ends up being the chair, then it would probably be good to have 1 more person to make it, to vote better. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not sure if the person that's on council is a voting member of that.
Just gonna
They're just
say
elected.
That's a really good point.
When I
Because
served
if
on
it-
boards and commissions, I don't vote.
I read it.
Actually,
and-
ex officio doesn't mean they don't have voting rights. Ex officio just means they're serving by way of their position. So as far as I know, and this has been the case in every board or commission we've created in this city, the chair has the right to make motions and actually do things from the chair, just like our mayor does. So I would not limit the council member that you're placing on the board or commission to a non-voting position.
Thank you,
Thank you for that clarification.
In reading the description of what purpose of this committee is, I almost read it as not a voting committee. It's a committee that's going to bring forth recommendations to the city. They're not gonna vote to do this. They might vote to bring it to the city, but I think, I don't think we're really talking about a voting
Well,
committee.
and only in the sense that any votes that they take as a commission, and correct me if I'm wrong here, the commission would discuss and review different projects that may come up, and then they would take those and recommend them. They would vote to see which ones to prioritize maybe first, and then they would be voting which ones they wanted to recommend to the council. And that's the only real voting that's going on, because the council still has to make the decision.
I can read the duties and responsibilities that are in our SMC.
Yeah, would you please?
Okay. Provide assistance, advice, and recommendation to the city council on the following: policy development to attract new business and help existing business. Assistance in attracting state and federal development assistance funding. Advising whether the city should assist in various community and economic development projects. Recommendations for the allocation of city resources towards business outreach. Recommendation for potential changes to the Sunnyside Municipal Code or city policies that will help promote business growth beneficial to the community and revitalize areas of the city. Draft and annual report detailing recommended ordinances, rules, regulations, and plans for city council's design to attract new businesses to the city, help existing businesses within the city grow, and attract state and federal development assistance funding, which shall be submitted to city council no later than October 1st of each year. Draft an annual report detailing the status of the city's basic economic health, quality of life, job creation, and industrial development as well as progress of any ordinances, rules, regulations, or plans recommended by the commission that have been adopted, implemented, or enacted by city council, which shall be submitted to city council no later than April 1st of each year. To conduct public hearings, review, and recommend proposed actions to the city council regarding community and economic development and job creation. The Community and Economic Development Commission shall not hold public hearings regarding permits, any matter that would normally be handled by other boards or commissions, other matters not related to community and economic development or otherwise prohibited by law. So they do have quite a bit of
They
responsibility.
have a very, very big plate.
All of
Don't be
those
scared.
things, Mr. Mayor, all of those things, especially the recommendations on how we spend the taxpayer's dollar, should come with a vote. Council should be able to see how the commission voted on something like that.
Yeah. Once again, refreshing my memory, thanks to Ms. Alba on all of the duties, it is true that there needs to be a vote that we can say, they voted, 2-4 or however. So, I'm not opposed to Mr. Farmer's proposal. It will require some staff time, so that would be able to come up in our next meeting, and we can vote on that. If there's no objection from council on that. Right, let's move forward on that then.
No
That being
objection,
said,
Mr. Mayor? No
Yeah.
objection, but I would like to make a real quick comment, and that is that we have had a hard time filling boards and commissions of larger than 7 in this city. We had to make changes to the airport board because we couldn't keep it filled. So I'm just making council mindful of that. The larger the board or commission you make, the harder it's going to be to keep the seats filled.
you are correct, sir.
And Mayor, if I may, we actually do have 2 applications pending for this board that are on Jackie's desk. So
Yeah,
we
we have,
have 2 that have indicated interest.
It also changes the quorum requirements, Mr. Mayor. So the more you put on, the quorum changes.
correct. And all of that being said, there's, with all of you guys, there is nothing stopping you from meeting at this point, okay? You don't have to have every chair filled before you can meet. So you're able to start getting some work done, organizing yourself, figuring out how you're gonna divide your tasks and all of that. So, like the manager said, we have a couple of people already interested in this position. I had a conversation this past week with one of them. And so we can move forward on this should council agree with this, but there's nothing stopping you guys from getting started at this point, so. All right, Mr. Farmer, is that all you had?
No,
Okay.
sorry.
I saw a paper, I know.
I wasn't at the last council meeting when you passed the International Property Maintenance Code. I think that was a great thing to do. I did listen to the meeting when I got back. There are some things that I didn't hear that I think we need to address. And one is, first of all, I was gonna ask for a report. And we got the report, but I want to know correction notices, the process we're going through on fines. What are we doing if somebody just says, I'm not gonna do it? So where are we gonna go here?
If I could turn this over to Mr. Martin, he has already addressed this issue and has begun the process with one of our problem properties, so I'll turn it over to you.
Mr. Martin?
So this was, actually, I have a list here of what I was going to brief you on as we went around the room. But I can jump to this right now, absolutely. So we did adopt the International Property Maintenance Code. That takes 30 days or so to be officially adopted into our code. So in the meantime, I've been reanalyzing and kind of going through the city's current code enforcement tools and seeing what we can do with what we have in the books until we get the IPMC in place and kind of get used to how that functions. And there is an administrative enforcement program under FNC 832. I don't know if it's been visited in a while, but it gives some pretty decent administrative authority to city staff to begin code enforcement actions on nuisance properties. And they do leverage a a fine for the first violation, and they do have like a continuing fee or that's a compounding fine for every day a violation is left unresolved. If that case has continued to be left unresolved, after proper notice is given to a property owner, we can elevate that case to in that portion of the code, it would be referred to as a misdemeanor, and we can elevate that to the court here and take that person through the court. Additionally, in there, there's also a tool to the property owner will be on the line for paying those continuation of fees, be on the line for any court fees, recording fees, title searches, and they're also on the hook for the number of fees. So it's not just one. You're not just saying, oh, they're violating, they didn't get their building permit. It's building permit and whatever. There's 10 to 15 of them that they can fall under, and it compounds for each one of those. And then we can place a lien on their property if we don't. That's something I'm looking at right now. I drafted a letter to one of our nuisance properties, or drafted a letter to one of our nuisance properties in the city. I have it sent to our city attorney for their review, and I'm hoping to get that out with their blessing for next week. Briefly what I'm working on with some of the code enforcement stuff. I'm trying to empower them and give them some teeth because as I'll go through it again on more of my presentation.
So I had a thought pop into my head. I'm sorry, Mr. Farmer. And this is in no way an official statement or proposal or anything like that, but we got a stack of papers here that's talking about problem houses in Spokane and that sort of stuff. And obviously, dealing drugs and gang activity is against city code. Can that also fall under nuisance property if that is continued activity? Can they get a fine under code enforcement with that sort of thing as well?
So the portion of the code that I'm specifically looking at is Chapter 15 and Chapter 17, 18, and 19. There might be some stuff outlined in other places that I can look at. I'm going to stuff I deal with in civil. So there is a line. I don't want to put our code enforcement officers into a situation where they might encounter gang or drug activity.
No, I understand. But I also want to put some teeth into some things. I hear our kids getting shot at when they're at celebration, birthday party, or whatever. I'm tired of innocent bystanders getting into trouble. We've got houses where this is a consistent problem. I want to do whatever we can invent, whatever we can think of under the law that is gonna slow it down. Anyway, Mr. Farmer, I know you got.
Okay. Just follow up on that really quickly. Sorry, but whatever I can find for like a vacant property or a property that I'm not going to call cannot be occupied, I'm going to do whatever I can to find something that can fix the property cleaned up.
The city Yakima, and I don't think, I really wouldn't be Sunnyside, in favor of Sunnyside doing it, but maybe some of it. They have a community accountability board.
We used to have this? Did we used to have this?
No. I don't remember, but anyway, what it basically is, there's a group of community members that meet, and then the code enforcement come at the meeting, tell the people what they've done. These citizens have option of, so many days to abate the problem and things over with, or for chronic people to go ahead and do a title search, which the property owner would be on the hook for. They also have the right to tell the city, go in and clean this property up, and then we will lien the property for that amount. And I think that if we start doing things like this, saying, hey, we don't want your property looking like this. The neighbors complain. There's no reason why it has to be that way. So if we go ahead and say, you got 30 days If you don't, we're gonna send a crew in at prevailing wage and clean your property up. And the difference between prevailing wage and what they can hire the guy down the street for is two different sums of money. So maybe we hit these people once or twice, and the news is gonna be out there that the city's not gonna mess around with you. You're either gonna take care of it, or the city will take care of it and you'll pay for it. So those are my concerns here. I think that, and I drive around Sundays and Mondays and see all the yard sale boxes out. I see this, I see that. Our code enforcement people don't work on Saturdays, so they're not gonna be out there looking, and this is when this stuff happens. So maybe we need to change the way we do things here. This is something that I would like to put on the council status report, your updates of what you're doing and what you're changing. I would like to see them on the status report. And then the other thing that I thought that I want to talk about was the paper quarterly report, financial, which we've already talked about. I think that would be very helpful to council. I'm like the mayor. I'm a paper and pen guy. You know, if I can't do it with a paper and pen, I don't want to do it.
I will promise to bring it to you at the study session on the 1st of August. I will give you your second, or your half-yearly financial report. How about that?
Brilliant. And along that same line, we need to start addressing the noise of the cars, the racing of the cars. I mean, I'm not a policeman. I don't know. I know it's really tough because they never do it when you're around, you know. So, but I would like to see some kind of a plan there on what we're going to do to help curb that. I guess that's all I got.
Besides, transmission defying speed limit.
Yeah.
We don't want to destroy those cars.
We want them to slow down.
All right, Ms. Hart, you're next in line.
Yes, well, I want to thank everybody who participated in the National Night Out. I don't want to steal your thunder, so I won't say too much about that. I know there's another one coming up next weekend, that one of our ladies who's on our new accountability, our new...
Economic.
Yes, thank you. It'll take a while to get that to roll right off the tongue, but it will. It's actually helping to organize, but that's Perla from, Farmers, thank you. All those guys mixed up. Anyhow, when I was at, again, at the AWC, I guess I'm just kind of piecemealing this out. I picked up I'll pass this down here and you guys can kind of take a look and bring that. It's in case of a media emergency, and whenever we have the shootings or the major fires or other things that require us to make an immediate crisis triage, there's things that the police do, things that the firemen do, things that City Hall and the leaders of the community, the council needs to do to make sure that the information is dispensed correctly. So one of the things that Mark Weaver, who is a crisis communications specialist, prepared these cards. And I only got two, so I'm hanging on to this one so I can read off it a little bit. But it basically talks about, before you ever have a crisis, figure out who the team is. Who is on your team? Who's the person that's going to deal with legal, PR, be an expert on the subject of shooting, what's going to happen, in the schools, with the counseling, that sort of thing. And it's all going back to this business of being able to have a point of contact. So this, the team works together, but one person delivers the message. And I think that one of the things that I think that was really unfortunate and crippling was how the handling and dispatching the information during the Cinco de Mayo crisis occurred. There was a lot of wasn't that the information going out from the people, like the police department or city hall or from the organizers themselves was wrong. It was just that in the manner in which it was delivered. And people started jumping on the boat and wagon and wanting to kill somebody. Otherwise, you know.
And if I may address this issue, if you check your email, there is a city council brief, and I did discuss massive incidents, and there's a link on there. And then in all of your boxes, there is a guide to an incident, and then a tabletop exercise that I will be taking all of the staff members through so that we can identify this and have a plan to bring back to council.
Excellent, because that's
It's already in
exactly,
your box.
thank you, because that was exactly what I was hoping could or would or has already been put into place, because I think it's really important for us so that we don't have folks coming in and saying this and that and something else wasn't done, when in fact we had prepared for it.
Correct.
You know, we can't stop every bad thing that happens, but we can be prepared to address it. And I hope that's correct, Chief.
The better we can be, the better, yes.
Yes, that's right. The messenger has got to be able to deliver the right message. So that's what I have tonight.
All right,
I may
thank
have
you.
something else later, but not tonight.
Ms. Ripley?
Nothing to report at this time.
Okay, Mr. Hicks, no? Mr. Wheeler, no?
Nothing.
Mr. Deputy Mayor Risucci?
Nothing to report at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so, I have a couple of things. First of all, I was able to attend last Wednesday's National Night Out event, and I thought it was brilliantly done. I want to thank everybody on staff who participated, and the city manager was there. I mean, live music, there was food, there were activities. It was good seeing so many of our police officers and firefighters there. It was an opportunity for the community to see those who are in charge of public safety and to realize that they are human beings, that they can interact with them, there's no fear. I had the opportunity to talk to a few who didn't know who the mayor was, and I was able to visit with them. I was able to do it in both English and Spanish, which was kind of nice. I think that it is helpful for the community to know that their mayor can communicate with them in either of those two languages. You know, we've got some who speak Arabic in the city, and I don't speak that language, so, but I'm able to do pretty well in Spanish. So, that was good, and I know there's other activities coming up, and I do my best to attend all of them. I wasn't able to be at Saturday's community forum. It's just absolutely impossible for me to get away from that one, but I'm assuming it went reasonably well.
We had 3 citizens participate.
We had 3, which is better than none. So, but we have had reasonably good participation throughout that process as well. So, I think that was a good idea, so I'm pleased with that. I did have a meeting with the Valley mayors, and I did find out that the county commissioners have approved the funding for the crime lab. So we haven't seen a check yet. They just said, yeah, we agree with you. But there's not been a check that's been issued yet. So that is a hopeful sign that we will be able to do some of our own crime analysis here. Some things won't have to be sent to the State Patrol lab, and we'll have to wait weeks or months or longer perhaps to get the information back. The hope is to get the information on ballistics and DNA and all that kind of stuff done very quickly here in the county, all of the Lower Valley, or all the county communities helping in that. But that is a work in progress, and no idea how quickly that's going to move ahead, but it's just kind of good news that the commissioner said, yeah, we can. That is what I have. Next item, upcoming council meetings. Madam City Manager.
So we have a workshop on August 1st. And having Jackie load that. So we're hoping to have the Title IX update finished with the prosecuting attorney. We've tentatively put out setting the date for the 2023 budget retreat. It sounds like August 27th is going to be that date. We will start working on a location. And since we've had a lot of citizen participation lately, I'm recommending that we have it locally in Sunnyside somewhere so that people that want to come and attend our budget retreat can just come like regular regular thing. We can still have it at a location that has, you know, something to eat and access. And then we'll be talking about parade permits and community event fees. So currently, we do not charge for community event permit, and we are being told by our insurance that our parades need to be permitted. And so I'm going to recommend an administrative fee for those, because there is quite a bit of work that our staff has to go into to put those together, to review them, to make sure that they have all the components they're supposed to have. So I'll be bringing forward that, and I'm probably going to recommend a $100 admin fee. National Night Out on Federal Way will be on August 3rd, and remember that is a special one in a neighborhood one again, where we go and invite those people. And then August 5th, another National Night Out. This one is sponsored by the city of Sunnyside. It's open to anyone that would like to come. Since I'm going to be out of town, Perla Cepeda has been taking the lead on this and acting on my behalf. She has a lot of really neat stuff coming. I believe the Department of Fish and Wildlife are going to be there. People for People, I'm trying to think. I don't know, there's just a ton. I would say she has 17 businesses that are going to be there. They're going to have a dunk tank, and the superintendent's going to be in it, so you can dunk the superintendent.
Well, that's a school.
Yes.
Is the mayor gonna sit on the ledge?
Nobody has talked to the mayor yet.
No, the mayor doesn't want to do it, I believe.
Nobody's talked to the mayor yet.
Oh, really? I'll guess we'll have to put a bug in Perla's ear and have her talk.
Put it to vote.
Oh, that I can give you high.
And then August 8th, I will not be in attendance because I will be in Las Vegas, so I will probably have whoever is acting city manager run that meeting, and if I can break away from the activities at my conference, I'll try to at least be on Zoom so I know what happens. We will have the YVCOG July Regional Crime Center presentation, and then the Franklin Court, no, we did the Franklin Court tonight. Okay, so that one's up there. And then Sixth Street project, we were obligated for that, so now we know we have the funding. And then that's it. Is that a contract award? Oh, okay, so it's something different than what we did tonight. That was the task order.
The next step. Perfect. Anybody has any items to add to the agenda, please talk to myself and the city manager the week, at least the week before the meeting, as early as possible, so that we can get that included. Next item, items from department heads. Madam City Manager.
Well, normally I put this off to staff first, but looking at everybody that is stood at this podium tonight and stared at me and given me the look, I want to address that first. I want to say that I've had every single one of those citizens in my office, and I've heard from them. And I've heard them out. And I've told them our ideas and our things that we are doing. But some of the things we can't disclose. Some of the things we can't tell you what the police are doing, because then that would harbor their investigation of stuff. That would tell citizens, oh, we're going to go down your road, and we're going to be in an unmarked car sitting and watching for speeders. There's things that we can't always say, and this is the other part. If you think about it, if a police officer goes by your house and you're not sitting out there, do you know that they went by your house? No. So when they talk about the patrolman not being out there, you don't know if you aren't watching the road, or you have your camera on and you watch the camera all day. And then the other thing that I want to say, very public way, please come complain, but stay until the end of the meeting so that we can talk about what you had to say. So that we can respond and we can say, this is what we're doing. So all of those citizens that left, please come back to my office and talk to me. We're doing things. We're just not shouting to the world what we're doing. And the last thing that I'm going to say, at your budget retreat, I'm going to have an exercise for you. So tonight, I started writing down a list. And I'm gonna read the list. And then at that meeting, I'm gonna ask you to prioritize what you think is the highest priority and the lowest priority of these things. And if in the next few weeks, you think of something else you want me to add, let's do it. And then we can come up with a plan that says, if everybody's priority is this, and this is the order, then we can start checking off those things. Okay? So I'm gonna read the list, and I just wrote them down as people started talking. Graffiti, guns, window tinting, loud pipes, dogs, weeds, landlord-tenant notifications, hotels, prostitution, drug use, speeding, homelessness, yard sales, boxes, abandoned houses. If you think of anything else you want on this list to be prioritized, let me know, and I will add to it. And then we'll all go through an exercise where we talk about and prioritize what we think is the most important thing. And come up with the council as a whole, and you'll know exactly the direction that you're gonna tell me. Okay, Elizabeth, number one priority of all this council was X. I'm gonna focus on that until I get through this list. And then we'll start a new one. Okay? So, that's my report out, sitting here tonight. I really, really want people to come and sit in my office and talk to me and then find a solution. Help me find a solution. I don't have all the answers. I've read all of these documents that were presented tonight. I know they're out there, and I'm not afraid of the Attorney General. He is actually no longer able to put anything in any circuit court. They've denied it. So we don't have to worry about that program. It's been basically said that they won't take it in a court again. They denied it in Yakima, and it's been turned over to the 9th District, and they refuse to take it. So, we need to do our crime-free rental housing again? We can. So I had a comment.
I was gonna make a very quick comment on the crime rental housing. They do have one more appeal, and that last appeal, they have been turned down in federal court, they have been turned down in state court, we have won all of those. Even after the last, hearing that was done here just recently, even though that was refused in the city, of course, but they do have one more appeal to go. And so it is fully intended that the AG's office will pursue that. Right now, we're, by the very strong advice of our attorney is that we will not conduct anything.
Thank you for clarifying. And with that, I will turn it over to the police chief to give his report.
As city manager was talking earlier, she has been talking to people, we have been talking to people. We understand the concerns as well as anybody. However, I would like to shed just a couple of things on it, is that we have not waited, and we're not waiting for technology to be placed, to be right, and in order for us to do on things. We have been attacking this for some time now, and going after it, and through our precision policing model, we've been very targeted on certain people and conducting certain activities. And with that, we came into May, in the month of May, at about just over 415% increase in gun violence from last year. And in 30 days, in our precision policing model, and what we have done, and there's a couple other things that attributed to this, we reduced that 167+% 30 days. So that's quite a movement, and that's getting out there and doing the job, and doing it with the restrictions and the manpower that you have is commendable. All there is to that. Okay, they're working very hard. They're putting themselves out there. They're working extremely long shifts. It's not just 12 and go home. We are working. I am working at least one of my days off every weekend. I'm working nights till about 1 o'clock in the morning, and that does help. And it does help me know what's going on the streets. It does help me determine what the mindset is after hours. In the day, it's one thing. At night is another. It's a different world that comes out, a different clientele that comes out that you need to address, and you have to address them a certain way. And there are some things that have been taken away from you to do that. Or not. And so we are doing just like any other department that's out here in the state of Washington, and we are reinventing the wheel in some respects. There are some things that we have to do in order to address the issues out here, and there are things that if our officers do and step over a line, that they will pay that price for, and that's not something I will allow our officers to do. I'm not going to subject them to being indicted, subject them to being decertified, for what people expect us to do. And what people expect us to do, they are talking to the wrong body of government right here. It needs to go to the state level, and they need to talk about the damage that's done there in the reform laws. Nothing wrong with reform and training for police officers, firemen, or anybody else in public safety, including the city council. There's nothing wrong with it. There has to be some common sense applied to it, and it has to be careful on what it does in the long-term, the short-term effects and the long-term effects of those decisions that are being made. And we are seeing that today. We are seeing that in every community in the state of Washington. It is not just city Sunnyside. Facing extreme spikes in their criminal activity. And we don't live too far on either side of us, 50 miles either way. They are just getting it handed to them left and right, and it's extremely hard to deal with. We have to do things. We respond to every call. We respond to everything. However, the way we handle it is quite different than we once could. That is, the optics of that is terrible to the public because they're the ones who pay the price. That's what you're seeing here. And so, as a result of that, I'm out here trying to reinvent some wheels, right? And go after the things that we can do. It's not what we can't do. We already know what we can't do. That's not what we're focusing on. We're focusing on the things that we can do. And so, as a result of that, we have really attacked this and brought this down 167% in that 30 days. That's not an easy feat. It continues to drop, and we continue to attack that on a daily basis. Under our risk-based policing model, addressing problematic neighborhoods. Problematic neighborhoods address individuals where they reside, and they address significant apathy features that are within the city, that are perhaps a little bit more than the norm, but they also address gang neighborhoods. They address individuals who commit burglaries, and we know that they in those areas. And it's people that may steal cars. But for the most part, it's violence. That's really what I'm focused on, and I'm looking for where they live. So if you have a history of violence or you have warrants for violence, I'm going to be coming up and down your neighborhood. And I'm going to be coming to talk to you. And this is what we've done in one particular area of the city that is very close to our hospital. It's been problematic for decades. And one of those things that we had done, we had gotten out of our cars, and there was a fair share of us that walked these neighborhoods, and we addressed everything from tall grass to gang involvement. Okay, so if your grass is tall, your weeds are out there, your fence is dilapidated, you got old cars, you got abandoned cars, you've got an outhouse on your property, I don't care what it is, you got junk, tires, whatever, we addressed it. And we went after them, and I'll tell you, it was amazing what 24 hours did. And did they challenge us? Absolutely. But that is the name of the game. That is what we're looking for. That draw from specific individuals. And those have worked considerably. And in that probably 3.5 block radius, we reduced our call volume and crime there by over 24% within about 3 weeks. And we're going back there, readdressing and reattacking, and we continue to do this. And we are starting that in several other neighborhoods, and we call those intervention areas. And those intervention areas are looking for, of course, apathetic neighborhoods, but in those apathetic neighborhoods, you need to have, I need to have, and I require this from our folks, for the most part, I need to have some problematic people. Because the precision policing model does work in that area. We were down there today, and there was an instance where an individual ran on us, and it was a deal, right? And anyways, at the end of the day, when you affect them where they live, it becomes effective. It doesn't come without its challenges. They just say, okay. Don't say that at all. You, and they retaliate in different ways, and face those days. So we are working very hard in doing that. One of the most significant arrests happened on Wednesday. We were at the Cinco de Mayo event. I was getting phone calls of a brandishing case that was occurring. And as soon as Cinco de Mayo event was done, I had left the event where the officers were at and where they were addressing when the crime occurred, with the victim and of course with the neighbors up and down this particular area. We received some intelligence on the individuals who were brandishing weapons, and that really escalated to an assault first charge, really what it amounted to. We went to these particular addresses and places that I was on my way home because I went and checked them. There was nothing there. There were people there, but not of the interest. I stopped in the Foster to get some fuel. It was about 10:30, and I hear that they're behind this particular car. And this car has 5 people in it, and it's going right to the address that we just left. So I made it in record time from Prosser back to Sunnyside, actually, and a little bit west of Sunnyside here, and the county came from UN to Sunnyside, so we all met in one big happy location, and we ended up detaining 5 people in this car. And in doing so, one of the individuals that we arrested is probably the most hostile influence in this city today. That individual controls all youth gang activities in the city. He's that dangerous. And so we end up getting this, and we end up getting 3 out of 5. I'm arrested, get him taken to juvenile. We call the judge the next day. We call the Superior Court judge. We inform her what we've done, and she asked about the other 2 that were in the car. We told her the names, and she wanted them revoked and sent added right to juvenile. And so she issued warrants for both. And we have 1 in custody, just she won Friday, and we're on the manhunt for the other. So a lot of pressure being put on the community right now by us, but they are the right people. We are pursuing the right individuals. Happens. The fatality last night, unfortunately, that was an unfortunate incident happened there, but is DUI-related collision. We don't know that. We don't know that until the life expectancy. So luckily, nobody in the other vehicle were recorded. So that's what you are getting from the police department. There's things that we're not waiting for. We have not been, and we have been very specific and targeted. That we've been extremely focused, and we're working hard every day, and our overtime budget doesn't look very good right now, and I'm trying to relieve that as much as possible and give these guys some rest. They need time away from here. We're working 18 hours a week. So it's extreme. And some of these guys are working 18-hour days back to back. The Cinco event was great. We had a great time over there. It's a very problematic area and neighborhood. Our explorers went out and they put out 100 flyers to those folks, and we probably had 150 people there. And some of those families came out I think they were a little hesitant to do that, but they did, and some were not always our friends. unfortunately, our friend step. And so, that worked out well. Our police officers and our firefighters were playing all of the kids, high school kids, so they were sweating. So, you know, they were working out pretty hard. They were also playing basketball in full uniform, full gear, and they're out there doing it. And hats off to both the fire and police personnel for themselves out there with kids, with the families. So, we had a great time overall. Anyway, there's a lot more I can address, and I'm not gonna do that. I think with the Public Safety Committee, we can sit and chat some more, but there's an awful lot that was addressed at citizens. I do wanna express one thing about the hotels. I worked Friday night, and when I was working Friday night, we had an overdose that occurred at one of the larger hotels here. Related to what was discussed. I get there, the Narcan, the individual was fine. So the manager is there, and they've been dealing with the manager, it's new management, this particular location. And our guys have been dealing with management there, and they've been very receptive to us. So they told us that evening, reiterating that they are tired of what's being, you know, what they rent to there and what's actually there. They said they're going to call us for any drug-related issue, and they actually want us to trespass these people. I told them, and the officers told them, they said, you call, we all. You call us in every incident, and she goes, we might call you a lot. I said, I don't care. We'll be here a lot. You give us a call, and if you want us there to trespass people for drugs, because there's nothing we can do about it. But I got taken to the state of Washington. Do about that. So, but they can't. As management, they can do that, and they can say, I don't want you here. And I want you to trespass, and you can't be here for a year, 2 years. Whatever they want to invoke, they can do it. If they need to happen, we'll be here, and we'll make sure they don't come back. If they do, we have. So, over the weekend, there's a few more incidents that occur there. This morning, I'm at the briefing, and the morning brief, and the management had informed our officers who were there in another call that their management, who are the owners, said that we're not going to allow you to call the police and trespass these individuals. That will not happen. And they said whatever is there remains there. Don't bother them unless it's major. That is what we've seen for years. Can we make a business license go away for that kind of business? Yeah, I understand. That's what I was going to present to you guys. You guys will get that presentation from us. It will take the act of council in order to make something happen. To take a licensing effort for us to address. We have the data. We have all of that ready to go, and we'll get that presented to you and show it to you. At the end of the day, you have to go after the source, and if it's incredible what's residing there. We know what's residing there. And they're absolutely right in what they see there. It's extremely disturbing. So just for your FYI, if something is coming, it is a request from me to you, and in order to address these problems. But anyway, I'm sorry it takes so long, but that was unexpected today. Definitely, but it was just, it has to be addressed, and we understand it, and we've been addressing it. We're not waiting for anything. Thank you for your time.
No, that's why I was hoping that the manager was that they would stick around to hear your report, because I knew you had a response to that, and I knew that at the beginning of the meeting was not the right time for you to stand up and report, but I am also disappointed that you all left. I know the intervening part of the meeting can be a little boring, but I was hoping for an opportunity to respond.
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, but maybe we can change our agenda to where we can allow department heads and council
to interact with the citizens when they come up and have concerns. As of now, we don't dialogue with them. They just stand up there and say what they want. And half of them think we don't hear, the other half think we don't listen.
I think that, I would refer to Deputy Mayor Stucci. I believe that almost becomes a public meeting that they're interfering there or something. Is there something that, could I ask you if that would be something you would want to partake?
I would, Council, we have debated this issue before, and at length about public comment. The state law has changed now. It does require that we have a point during our council meeting for public comment, but it should not be the only thing that we are doing. We spent 35 minutes of the council's business tonight listening to people complain about things that we were already aware of. And although I appreciated them coming and complaining and addressing their council, we should never suspend our 3-minute rule. There's a reason for that. And we are supposed to operate by Robert's Rules of Order. And Roberts makes it very clear that no one gets to speak twice until everyone else has had an opportunity to speak. And everyone should be communicating directly with the chair and no one else. The mayor knows this. In order to maintain decorum in the meeting, you cannot have council members going back and forth with people at the podium. You cannot do that. This is a business meeting of the city. We have things that we have to get accomplished. Although I want to hear from the citizens, and I made this very clear on many occasions, the majority of things that came before the council tonight should have gone to the manager. And if they've already gone to the manager, then the other thing that was going on there was grandstanding, with all due respect, because we are working to try and fix these problems. And the people who came to the podium should know better than anyone, having been serving on this council before. They know where we're sitting. Now, I apologize, Mr. Mayor, if I'm out of order, but I think it's ridiculous that we wasted time tonight when we could have been talking about solutions instead of talking about complaints and problems. That's all I had to say, sir.
I don't mind people coming before council and voicing their concerns. I think that oftentimes they will talk to somebody on city staff and then feel that it's not enough, and they want to make sure they go all the way up to the top. And while that's not necessarily the correct way of going through things, it is the responsibility of the city manager to hear those things. We as council also have time put out to hear that. I honestly feel that we have an agenda laid out very carefully, and we have time for the department heads to speak and to change the agenda around. It turns into more of a conversation or perhaps an argument between the public and city staff, I think, which would be responding mostly to this one. And it would have probably taken 3 times as long to get through the meeting had we done something like that. And it's, there's only a question of order. It's like, the suggestion that people think that we're not listening. I try to make that clear every single time that we have public comments, that we don't necessarily respond right away because we want to be able to send it to staff to be able to research these things, to be able to respond. We don't know the answers to these questions right off the top of our head. And we don't know the answers that the police chief is, for example, in this evening, is going to come up with, or what he's already worked on. And even in my comments earlier, I said I wasn't going to try to, speak for the police chief because I don't know what he's able to say. There's some things that he's told me. I don't know what he said in confidence or not, and I'm not going to share that publicly without first talking to the police chief. He was able to cover all of that this evening. But yeah, there has to be some sort of, how do I want to say that? It can't turn into a conversation or a debate between staff and the citizens who come into the meeting. Otherwise, the meeting devolves into something that's unmanageable.
Correct, Mr.
So
Mayor.
I guess that's
Council meetings are not public forums. They're not designed to be public forums. That's what the community events that we held were for. We can argue this and debate this, and I can tell you, Mr. Farmer will tell you also, a good 12, 14 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, we debated this issue for a good hour for council about whether or not to have public comment, when to have it. There was a point when council allowed public comment at the beginning of the meeting and at the end of the meeting. Mike, you can weigh in here as well. I honestly think we have a pretty good agenda right now, and I've run it for 8 years as mayor, and we haven't changed it much. But I would caution council allowing us to suspend the rules and allow people to talk for more than 3 minutes, because then they're really presenting to council. And there's a process for them to do that if they truly want to present to council, which requires them to go through the agenda committee and actually get on the agenda, and I'll allow us the time to hear them properly and to make sure that we have all of their documentation. You know, there were things put out tonight to the council that I still haven't seen yet. And I should have been made aware of that stuff immediately when it was given to the rest of the council. If we're going to conduct meetings properly, then all members need to be informed at the same time.
Mr. Mayor, I would agree that you don't want a debate between audience members and council members and or department heads. But I think our citizens would have loved to hear your request, your explanation and your statement. They would have loved it, because they know something at least is being looked at. And I don't blame customers or citizens not to want to have to sit through the mundane business of the city council just so they can hear reports at the end. And for as far as Councilor Rasucci, Deputy Mayor, I was elected by the people, and if somebody wants to take more than 2.5 minutes, I'm going to move to suspend the rules if I think it's a good subject to talk about, and I will suspend the rules every time. I was elected to hear the people, and that's what I'm going to do when I'm up here, is I'm going to hear the people.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, on that same note, at any debate or any presentation, 3 minutes is more than enough time to get your point across. Mr. Raines was a good example of that. He had every single thing that he wanted to say written down. And it went very smoothly. He read from it. He put his thing across. The other gentleman who, had kind of rambled a little bit and was allowed to go over the 3-minute rule. 3 minutes is a long time. And if you have something that you want to say to the council and you know you only have 3 minutes, then it's your obligation as a citizen standing at the podium to make sure your point of view is received, is delivered.
Point of order.
Okay.
I think we stepped off our talking to our heads, and if this is something we need to talk about, maybe it needs to go into a workshop.
I think Mr. Beaver is correct here. We have wandered down a rabbit hole that probably needs to be discussed, but not now.
Okay.
Okay?
We can agree on that.
So, we're going to continue. Thank you, Chief Escalera, for your report, and thank you for your continued efforts in the police department and the results that you've got, so.
Thank
you. As city manager, you once again have the floor.
And I'll turn it over to Chief Anderson.
Thank you, council members. I don't have a whole lot new specific action. I'm pretty busy with candidates for the assistant chief. We have a really strong cohort. We're hoping tomorrow is our final interview, so I'm optimistically confident that I can do that part. Something that was mentioned by Councilmember Hart, though, earlier, I just wanted to kind of bring it to your attention. I'm not sure if your countywide comprehensive emergency management plan is actually undergoing revision. So I don't know when the deadline is. I believe the county actually contracted a party this time to do most of that, but it's
Are you ready, Mr. Marquez?
So I kind of covered a little bit about when we talked on code enforcement side earlier. I handed out to you, and I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor Succi, I will get this out to you in an email. handed out to you, earlier, just some of what our code enforcement is working on. These dates are from 7/12, 7/22, and in that time span, they've responded to 161 items. How we must phrase that. So they're split a lot of ways during the day, and they're pretty busy. But I'm going to continue bringing this to you just to show you kind of what we're working on. I have them kind of break it down into different categories. That all being said, we were approached recently by People for People. They have a workforce placement program, and they wanted to place somebody to help out, all under their People for People will cover it. They'll insure them, they'll pay them, but they should help out with our code enforcement officers. So they will be helping them with some cleanups, and graffiti, painting, weed. So those items throughout the day, starting, I believe, Wednesday, we'll have one. We'll be working with our code enforcement officer. And then just kind of going back to the IPMC and the Untitled SMC Chapter 832. We're looking at different code enforcement measures. Some models that we've seen to be really successful are kind of what I laid out in front of you earlier, are hitting people in pocketbook. That usually gets their attention pretty quickly. When it's the second or and having an appeal program that they basically get proof of why they can have their weeds or their abandoned house. So I'm working on getting that going. I'm hoping to have some results starting to roll in. I'm addressing one problem property right now, and if we can get a model working with that, I feel like I can, because it's a pretty comprehensive one. If I can get it going with that, I feel like we can probably implement this. Now moving on to some little bit lighter things. The brand new Community Economic Development Commission, I have been in contact with them. I've given them an outline of things, and you were talking about the Roger Brooks presentation. That's one of the things I'll be sending to them to kind of take a look at here. So there are some items within that presentation that I think could be part of a really nice plan for the city, maybe part of a nice. So those are just some of the things that I'm working on right now. And then kind of get back to one more of the things I wrote down here that I remember on the code enforcement side of things. To get back to Chief Escalera's point, City Council has the final authority on business license. If we develop some sort of program or some sort of process where we need to pull a business license over on our side, we review them, permit them, but we don't have the full ability to revoke them. That relies on a workshop. I'm happy to do that and get some program going or process going with it.
Okay, so I'll turn it over to Ms. Warner for finance.
I will be brief tonight. I just wanted to let you know that I will be presenting the entire budget calendar at the August 1st workshop. So that should lay out our plan for budget all the way through the end of the year with dates when we hope to pass everything and get all of the public hearings out of the way. I also wanted to advise council that we did have a staff resignation in our recreation department. So we did have an open position for recreation supervisor, unfortunately. But we did get an excellent internal candidate for that position. So I'm very hopeful that we will have a recreation supervisor up and running by August 1st as well. And once again, I want to apologize for not giving you your quarterly financial report.
So with that, we have nothing more to add.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. I know it's been a little more of a meeting than we thought we were going to have this evening. I would like to ask one thing of whoever is in charge. I believe the air conditioning in this room shuts off at a certain time. It was a while ago. Although it's the smart one who brought her own personal air conditioner. The rest of, I don't know how y'all are feeling, but I'm sweating pretty good here. So for the next meeting that we have in this room, if it's after 5 o'clock, which it will be, could we please make sure the air conditioner is on for that? And secondly, just an explanation of some of the comments we had earlier, and I'm not gonna take it any further than this. Everybody who presented this evening had, I don't know how long to write down their presentation. To ask the chief of police to have an immediate response, would have been unfair. I know he was taking notes, and I know he was preparing his response throughout the meeting tonight. It's not fair to ask a city official to respond to those kinds of comments. Every one of those comments was legitimate. These are concerns these people really have. These concerns exist. I'm not trying to take away from that. But the police chief does need to have time to prepare a coherent response. So that is part of why I thought about it, I thought, no, that's not fair. So decided that it was gonna continue the agenda the way that it was. And yeah, I lament the fact that they have to sit through a boring meeting to get to the end of it, but that sometimes is necessary. So with that comment, if there's no objection, this meeting is adjourned, 9:05 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for your participation, and good night.
Nice.